Hey guys, it's Matt here, and today I'm bringing you another episode of Matt Rants. So, long-time listeners know that this is an episode that I've had prepped for a while. This news is not new news, it's almost a month old, I believe, because every time I try to actually record this and release this episode, all of a sudden something else came up, like the PS1 Classic or rumors of an N64 Classic because of the recent trademarks and stuff like that have been filed. Seemingly other Classic editions keep on rearing their not ugly heads necessarily, but coming in between this actually being recorded. The last one for the N64 was when there was trademark issues, or not issues, but trademark situation in Japan. People were thinking, trademarking of a controller, and I did a Matt Rants on that because immediately as I was going to record this, boom, that happened. Then the PS1 Classic happened, and thankfully I'm able to incorporate some of those into my notes, but I've had this prep for so long, it was like finally I could sit down. And here it is. So, let's talk about the Sega MegaDrive Mini being delayed until 2019 and asking the question, as we always do on a Matt Rants, or most of the time do on a Matt Rants, we're asking, is this a good thing? So, before we get into the positives and even the negatives, I want to give some of the background in case that maybe some of you guys, maybe this passed you by. Again, so much video game news, even the Telltale stuff got in the way, a bunch of stuff has been getting in the way. So, let's talk about the facts before we get into my opinion. So, fact number one, it seems like the Sega MegaDrive Mini actually has more involvement from Sega than any of the other classic Sega consoles have had up until this point. And the reason why is because Sega actually mentioned they were looking into local companies to create the hardware. So it seems as if AtGames is not going to be involved at all. This is not going to be a licensing situation. This is coming directly from Sega. Now, yes, you could argue there'd be licensing costs and things like that if they go for local hardware companies, but it seems like it's more of a symbiotic relationship rather than being paid to license these and, these games or these consoles or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden there seems to be no involvement whatsoever from Sega. Another thing to mention as well, even though they are looking into local Japanese companies to work on the hardware, this isn't going to be a Japanese only release. Originally it was, but even though Mega Drive is in the name, it is actually going to be released internationally. So it seems like in 2019, if you live in the US like I do, you'll be able to pick these up from US distributors, which is actually really cool because in some cases certain minis actually are either the same price or go down in price being imported, funnily enough, but other ones, obviously due to the fact that they're being imported, increase in price due to either shipping or currency conversions, things like that. So I'm actually happy that I can actually get this off of either Amazon or through a US distributor, hopefully a brick and mortar store as well. More options are great for stuff like this. Now, let's move on to the positives and why this might not be such a bad idea, because I heard some doom and gloom from some people saying it was the best thing ever. But again, let's talk about the positives before we get into the negatives. So, number one, the PS1 Classic is coming out this year. Potentially, we are also having an N64 Classic coming out this year. I think that one is extremely unlikely, but we do have a PS1 Classic coming out. That is confirmed. It's coming out December 3rd. So at this point, why would any company want to face up against Sony's first Classic Edition? If this was the PS2 Classic Edition, even though I love the PS2, I love the PS1, still you could say, it's just their second time going into that well. This is Sony's first time going into that well, first time bringing in a mini, Classic Edition, whatever you want to call it. And this is not the first time, even though it wasn't from Sega directly, this isn't the first time we've had some kind of Genesis Mini of some type. So at this point, why would you want to go up against Sony and against the PS1? I'm not trying to sit here and say, the PS1 is so great, Sony is so amazing. We're those Sony playing guys. We only play Sony. No, we play a bunch of different stuff on the channel. We focus on a bunch of different news on the channel. It isn't just either pro Sony this or pro Nintendo that. But the fact of the matter is, like I just mentioned, this is the first time Sony's doing this. Why would you want to go up against them? Why do you want to go up against them when you could wait a little bit longer? And like I mentioned earlier, they are going for local hardware developers, so you can change up not only your strategy for how this thing is going to either not necessarily look, but what's going to be inside of it, how the hardware is going to run, how it's going to play these games and stuff like that. You can change that up as well as not having to go up against competition. Even if you think that Sega is always going to, now until the end of time, even back in the day, smokes Sony, that's cool if you think that. But again, why do they want to go up against them? That's all it is. Even if they're going to win, it still is going to potentially make someone have to choose. And why do you want to do that, especially when they can focus on their hardware first? And it's also a positive because you don't have to choose, right? If you're sitting there like, oh God, what do I buy for the holiday season? It's not only a positive for Sega at this point, but it's a positive for you as well. Sometimes I hear people saying things like, but why can't I spend my money on this? And in certain cases, I completely understand where you're coming from. I'll even say that as well, especially when I want to give money to a company to support them in some way, but they don't have a way for me to do that. I sit back and I'm like, but I want this. And you're not giving me that. But I would like to pay for this, though. What are you doing? So I totally get that. But if you're someone like me who wants a PS1 Classic, now this is a very easy choice for you to make. Number 2, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but just really want to focus in on this, want to, bring this point home. Already so many classics for Sega, specifically the Genesis, of course, on the market. Even if you say that they're not good, even if you say that they're the worst, the point is that they are not only already on the market, they're readily available. You can go to your local Walmart. You can go on Amazon. I think you can go on Target as well. I say Target as if it's a website. There's a website for Target, but you can probably go into a Target. You can find these classics, these at-games Sega Classic consoles, these minis, whatever you want to refer to them as. They're all around. And so you think, oh no, but I didn't buy those, or those were crap, or, I saw online that people were giving them bad reviews. Sure, but they're still so available that if you're looking at this from, let's say, an anime perspective, right? Because I love anime, I love manga. You probably will know that either through the games that we played on this channel, or if you're new to this channel, you can check out our Teacher Production YouTube channel and our Those Guys on the Radio YouTube channel, and we do reviews for different anime manga there and other, podcasts and stuff like that. So, why do I bring that up, right? I bring it up because of the fact that when a manga or even an anime is licensed out by a distributor, and let's say that distributor goes bankrupt, right? So they call it quits. I'm not saying AtGames is doing that, but this made-up distributor, goes bankrupt, and due to the licensing agreements, in bankruptcy, you lose the rights to all those anime that you've licensed. So we're not talking about a Japanese company here. We're talking about a U.S. company that licenses these manga and anime from Japan, pays them a fee, but in the contract it says, if you go bankrupt, you don't own those anymore. But here's the thing. Even if they don't own those anymore, they have potentially, depending on the contract, there could be 6 months to liquidate that stock. And even if they don't have those 6 months to liquidate the stock, the point though is that if the anime or manga sold millions of copies, it's still out there. Even if it's not at your Walmart, at your Barnes and Nobles, but still, if it's not at your local bookstore or comic book shop or wherever it is you buy your manga at, if it's not there, then it can still be, millions of people could still have it, and if they wanted to sell it, then that would kind of change the market and tank the market, especially if the manga has already been fully released and it wasn't a terrible translation. Even if it was a terrible translation, perhaps, still, a company, if they wanted to come in and license that, does have to sit there and think, are these in the $5 bargain bin? Are these being sold brand new? How many of these were printed? And that's something that a company has to think about. So in this case, I think that Sega waiting until 2019 is a great idea because of how many people have purchased and have been burned by different at-games Sega consoles. Because you and I might know, if you're listening to this, you probably sit there and even before I said it, oh yeah, this is, at-games, they've made some wonky consoles, and when you heard that this Mini was coming out, you may have been thinking, please don't be at-games. Or if you were thinking, oh, it's going to be at-games, I like my at-games stuff, but then why would you buy this if you already, purchased that and you like that? So in this case, it's actually a great idea for Sega to wait a little bit, kind of make the flashback that came out in 2017, just came out in 2017, by the way. So it hasn't even been 2 years. It has not been 2 years since the flashback came out, and that was HD compatible. So why would you want to buy this over that, especially if it's made by the same company? In this case, of course, the company being at-games, not necessarily Sega, because the whole licensing thing. So even though, yes, this is the original distributor releasing it, you still feel weird about the show being, out there, or in, if you're thinking of it from an anime perspective, but the product, whatever the product is, out there in the market. So recently, Aniplex of America, or I think it was Aniplex in general, they pulled the license for Fullmetal Alchemist and Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood from Funimation. Shocking everyone, really frustrating, but they're allowed to do that. They can actually renege on the license at any time. I don't know that specific contract, but certain companies do actually put that in their contract, so they can just renege if they would like to. And then again, and of course you still have that 6 months to liquidate that stock, which Funimation had, and I purchased the Blu-rays along with our fellow Let's Player podcaster Satish Ram. We just looked at the Blu-rays. We were like, halvesies, and we just put money towards that. So now he and I both share a Blu-ray collection. He gets the Blu-rays on the weekends. So the point, though, is that they liquidated that stock. Now it seems like, I talked about this on our Keikaku Corner podcast, myself and Tristan Walter, that Aniplex of America is coming out with the Fullmetal Alchemist I think it's the full series, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood Blu-ray full series. And we don't know how much that's going to cost yet. Maybe that came up, but since then. But when we talked about it, we didn't know how much it was going to be. We just knew that they announced it. And they waited a little bit till this came out, but you can argue with how popular Fullmetal Alchemist is. You might not even be an anime fan, but you've heard the names Fullmetal Alchemist or Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. There's probably enough copies out there that the fans, unless there's like brand new fans, which there totally can be, of course, but if it's not airing on television because you have to now work out that contract with not Funimation now, but with Aniplex of America. So if it's not on television, and also I would like to add, it's already been on television a lot throughout the years, both versions of it. Now you sit back and you think, but who's going to want to buy this? Yes, it's on Crunchyroll, and it's subbed, so of course, perhaps someone would want to buy it if they saw it there and then sees expensive sets that are out of print from Funimation. They go, oh, I really want to buy this from Aniplex of America. But again, you don't want to limit your sales due to a market potentially being met, because it's only been, in the case of the Sega mini consoles, less than 2 years. Either way, though, moving on to my next point, getting rid of at-games is good. Because again, like I mentioned earlier, even if you love at-games, the question still becomes, why would you buy this if you have what you consider a superior Sega flashback? Because it has HDMI, you don't necessarily care about some of the frame skipping issues, or maybe I've heard some people even say that that was only an issue with some review copies. It was actually fixed for the retail release. So maybe it was fixed, and you can just plug in your Genesis consoles. Maybe the pins aren't as tight for you. My problem with some at-games Sega Genesis consoles is that the pins are a little bit too tight. I don't have any rare Sega Genesis games, mind you, but you might, so that might worry you a little bit. So when it comes to, at-games, if you don't like them, then this is a positive for you. Oh, great, they get to look at other people and other companies. And if you do like them, again, why are you going to buy this? What about this is different? Maybe there's different games. We don't know the game lineup yet. It could be, a completely different set of games with a few of the, obvious Sonic stuff. But it could be, different games. That's fair. But other than some new games, why would you want this over the flashback if you thought the flashback was good? That was $70. That's a lot of money brand new, $70. So also moving on to the negatives, and I only really have one, but it is a big one. So some of you Sega fans out there that were waiting for this, have been burned before, thought this might be the one time we're going to get something real good, this is going to be great, this is going to be awesome. Then, and hearing the news that they'd be looking at different distributors or different hardware manufacturers, you're thinking, oh, this is great. And then seeing either as a headline or just seeing in the article itself that it's being delayed until 2019. It hurts, right? I totally get where you guys are coming from. When it comes to mini consoles, it feels like you guys keep on getting burned and for some reason can't move past the Sega Genesis. So I totally get where you guys are coming from, especially, if you were waiting for something good and then boom, all of a sudden it has to be next year. But I would like to mention, we don't know when next year. Now, it would be odd if it was right after the holiday season, but it doesn't have to be next holiday season. It could be a summer release or even a fall release. Now, fall is pretty far away, to be fair. We are in 2018's fall right now, so that would be a year away, to be fair. But still, it doesn't have to be, like, in saying that it's going to be in 2019, it's a classic console that I think because Sega is getting involved firsthand, because it's been done before, even if it's not, at games at the wheel, there still is a template that they're probably going to use in some way or another. So even though there is going to be a wait, I do think that the positives outweigh the negatives, because if all the negatives are only that we have to wait longer, then I would say that if we're going to get a better product, then why not? Now, if we wait as long as we do, we buy the product either day 1, day 10, day 20. For me, probably like day 87. Probably very specific. I probably won't be getting it day 1. I don't usually get products like this day 1. But even if I did, if we get this and then it's basically the flashback, just a little bit better, maybe even worse, then yeah, I can understand why not just you, but I would also be kind of mad. So I understand why you guys would get mad, but at this point, we don't know any of that. All we know is it's been delayed, and there's going to be someone else working with Sega. And I think it's going to make a better product. And I'm not saying that At Games can't make any good products. They can. I just think that at this point, At Games has dropped the ball a few different times with their flashback mini, stuff like that. So, but you know what I want to know? I want to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. So tell me if you think this is a good idea, a bad idea. Tell me if you're waiting with bated breath for the Sega MegaDrive Mini, or if you don't care. Even with the potential seemingly change in hardware, you still don't care. You're thinking, you know what? I've been burned enough. I'm going to wait until they move on past the Sega MegaDrive Mini. So, again, tell me what you guys think in the comment section down below. Would love to hear it. And please remember to like and subscribe if you liked the video. And if you didn't like the video, you can still like and subscribe either way. Alright, guys, so thank you all so much. Love you all. Take care, and tune in next time for another episode of Matt Rants. Alright, guys, so see ya.